my name is Jenny Blake, and I am a nutrition coach for ladies who lift weights and want to look like they lift weight. So they want to build muscle, decrease body fat, but also understand it and understand the strategy and the science behind it, along with being able to implement it into who they are. So that's what I do and who I work with, and I currently live in Bali, Indonesia, but I'm from the States. And then we'll have you introduce yourself as well.
Hi, I'm Angelina. I am a fitness coach for women of all age right now. Currently, I think my youngest client is like 18 years old. My oldest has been like 70, so this is which is really, really cool. I'm currently trying to specialize a bit in like menopausal women because I come to realize that this is like a really, really important stage. But in terms of like for all my clients, I kind of have the same goal. So I teach them when it comes to nutrition, and also of course when it comes to training. So all my clients train hard in the gym. At least that's what I hope. So
Yes.
yeah, and I hope like I can get them to like create a healthier lifestyle and also like the body they've been dreaming of. And yeah,
I love it. So we're both coaches for females.
Yeah.
And we met here in Bali.
in the gym.
In the gym, but I slid into her DMs.
Oh, she did.
It still works, people. It still works. Basically, I have been looking for someone to work out with and train with, because we'll get into it, but it's just way more fun. And Aaron, my fiance, worked out at the same time as Angelina, and he was like, "Hey, I think I know someone who might be good," and we like kind of talked.
Yeah.
Which Aaron's a huge introvert, so that's like he's kind of like talking.
I made him talk.
Yes. And so yeah, I just creeped on her on Instagram and slid into her DMs, and she was like, "Actually, that would be fantastic. Let's get a workout in together." And then of course we hit it off, and it was amazing. And now we've been working out like once a week together, and then we would work together and just became friends. So that's kind of how we know each other. Anything I missed that you want to add?
No, I think I think we really have to mention here that we're always having a blast. So what I love about this is like literally like we're having like the best time in between sets. Like we love a lot, like everything we share, like everything. But then like as soon as like it's game time, it's like super freaking serious, and like we just like go really, really hard. And so we kind of get like both out of it, and so this is really, really cool. So it's not just like we're grinding or like we literally have like both.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a good point, because we'll be like crying, laughing,
Oh my God, for real.
and then it's
Crying,
like,
laughing,
right.
and then crying from the set.
Yes, then crying from pain from the set. It's like you switch within like 10 seconds. Like, all right, focus. Because like we both are like a lot of the ladies that we work with, like high achieving females. We have goals, but we enjoy the process, and we enjoy kind of like the pain and the struggle and the hard work that it takes along the way. That's a great point. So why I wanted to do this, because obviously we have a lot of overlap, but the topic around working smarter instead of harder is something that I think we both realized for ourselves, but also something we coach on a lot. Yeah. And we have a lot of different topics within that. So do we want to get started with the training aspect of?
Yeah, totally.
Okay, but first I have to share, before we even get into the specifics of training, that something Angelina does that I was like, oh, we've got to talk about this, is she makes the gym like feel like her home.
I started living there. I do.
Yeah. Okay, I got
like inventory.
So she walks in, and first of all, you know all the staff. You kind of, I feel like you probably have like secret handshakes.
I also talk to them like privately, like on Instagram stuff, like we chat.
Yeah, you're like friends with,
we go
with
for
the
dinner
staff.
stuff.
But you're friends with like at least, you know, while we're there, you talk to at least like 4 different people of like, oh hey, what's up, how have you been, you know, like just from gym
How's
friends.
your baby? What's this? How's this going? It's like everything.
Yeah, and you leave your stuff like every time you leave something, and you're like, oh no, I think my friend, which is the staff there, has it, and they always find it for you. So I like to call it like a gym socialite. And I think it's so cool because a lot of people, at least like ladies I work with, right, they love the gym, they love working out, but there's a difference between like having that space that feels like home, that creates that energy, versus like, oh, I've got to go into this place, but I do like the workout. So can you just share, what are your thoughts on that? How, like, obviously it's somewhat natural to you and your personality. But if someone's like, okay, that sounds like more fun, how would you like advise them to get to that point and be a little more comfortable in the gym?
Yeah, that's a really, I feel like it's about finding this part. It's about like, how can I make myself like comfortable? And so for me, it's like, I mean, obviously it's a big like part of my life, but it's also the way that I kind of approach this. It's like, okay, how do I, so first, like, of course, like, I love like efficiency and everything, but for me, it's like when you, like in the job, right? I mean, you spend a lot of time there. So, you best have like a place where you actually like to go to, because otherwise it's like super hard. So it's the same for me with gym. It's like, I'm not always motivated to go. Like sometimes, yeah, it's like discipline kicking in, but honestly, like knowing I'm going somewhere where I like to go, because I like the vibe, I like the people. This is also something that is really important for me, like when I determine like whether I should join a gym or not. So I've tried different gyms when I was here in Bali. And like the first one was like, yeah, it's like nice, it's nice recreation area, but like the vibe is off, right? It's like not my people.
Yeah.
So then I tried the second one. It was like, yeah, it's like more my people, but like it doesn't like really suit me well in terms of like I'm a big light person. I love like bright and everything. So it's like it's not really my place, right? And then like I joined Elite Fit, and it was like falling in love for me. It was like fuck yeah, here, like I want to be here. And this is like, I feel so comfortable there, and I feel like it's really important that you kind of feel this way and not be like, I don't kind of like it or whatever. I mean, sometimes we don't have a choice. I mean, back home I live in this like small village, like, or like, yeah, small city, like we don't have like that many gyms.
And where are you from, just so my audience knows?
Switzerland. Like, you know, like it's the most central country in Europe, if you don't know, and it's like the one with like cheese.
She knows my audience is American who doesn't know.
Chocolate and like cows. It's like very often like, no, the thing is also like very often people are like, oh, Sweden. And I'm like, no, I'm like dark here. It's like Switzerland. It's like the like, yeah, like all the like banks and stuff. So then like people are like, oh yeah, that one.
Okay, and if you're wondering about her accent,
which everyone does.
Yes. So obviously she's very fluent in English. But your first language is
Swiss German.
Swiss German.
Yes, and I mean, I'm not self-taught, but I think the thing is that I wanted to speak English really well. It's not only English, like I have this with languages in general, because we, for example, like we learn French in school, right? Mm-hmm. And so I was like, okay, if I get to speak French, like then at least I want to like sound decently, right?
Yeah.
And so it was kind of the same with English. And it seemed to work, because even you were like, so where are you from? Like, which part of the US? And I'm like, oh, bet you don't know that one.
Yeah. Which probably makes it, going back to like the gym socialite, great, because I've had friends that I've met here where they didn't feel confident in English, and so they didn't speak to anyone because they were the language barrier for them. Where, for you, obviously that's not an issue, you know, for people who are listening, if you're in your home country.
Yeah.
But kind of going back to like just feeling comfortable at the gym, it helps.
It's a big part. And also like maybe, so what I do is, I think for me it is a big part to like socialize at the gym. And I'm not a socializer like first and foremost, because still I'm going to the gym to like work out. But for me it's like, I honestly like, so this is, I mean, I get to choose what time I would work out, right? I can choose like either I'm going like in the morning, or like I could also go in the evening when like there's literally no person. But to be honest, like I like being at the gym when it's like not, okay, like maybe not like super crowded, but like when there are people, because then I feel like we're all in the same boat, you know, like we're all like here to like fuck, maybe today I'm not motivated, maybe today like it's only my discipline kicking in. Then I feel like it really helps to be like surrounded by people like actually doing the same, maybe even going through the same, because it's not their day as well. And so it kind of, I feel like it raises like my energy, you know what I mean? It's like, and if I'm like at the gym alone, then I have to grind, it's like, it feels like even harder. So I feel like this is like really a point, and like also like meet people, like ask them, talk to them, like ask for, I don't know, a spot. It doesn't need to be like awkward, but like connect to girls. So what I do really often is like also paying girls compliments, and I'm not doing it for like getting to talk to them in the first place. It's like really because I noticed something about them, like, hey, I love your chin fit, hey, I love this, hey, like also like I compliment them on like execution, and honestly like it always, or mostly it leads to like talk to them, and then like you get to say hi the next time when you cross each other, you know. That's how it happens. Or you talk in the like in the changing rooms, and like just be like really more open, and then like make it kind of your home, like your second home. Like you can make it a place where you actually like to go to, and people are a crucial part of that.
Yeah, I love the compliment strategy. I've actually talked about that before on the podcast, because, and someone called me a flirt because I'm a
and you called me a flirt.
Yeah, lots of similarities here, but like it feels good to compliment someone, and people love the receiving that.
Yeah,
it's like could make their day. Obviously, you have to mean it, but then it just starts. It opens the door to a possible like friendship or like that acquaintance at the gym that then makes it feel like home. Like it could be zero intention. There like, you may never hang out with them outside of the gym, right? But it could just be like, my like gym acquaintance is here to create that like homey feeling. Love
and
that.
I feel like, especially to be honest with girls, so coming from, I mean, I've definitely like the gym has like participated a lot to like, or was a big part in like growing my confidence in like who I am and like the way, I mean, I feel like I need to be really confident the way that I train, because like not everyone understands it. So I train hard and sometimes loud. So I guess you could say that. So there are some people that they don't like that, and they openly communicate that. I don't care. So I feel like I do have like it, like it was a big part that contributed to my confidence. But a lot of girls don't have that at the gym. They feel uncomfortable. They you can tell from like how they behave, how they dress sometimes in a way. And I feel like if I can just like make their day, or like give them a little bit more confidence that day, so they for sure make it back like the next day, and then like they I don't know, like they start believing in themselves, they see their bodies changing, and if I can be like just a minor part in that, I freaking love it.
Yeah. And on the flip side of that, being the person who creates this more like the gym is like my second home, you also become that person who's more confident in the gym, where you start, I remember first going to the gym and being intimidated by the dudes that were there, and like, oh, am I doing this wrong? Am I doing, but then like there was one time I went to a gym and I am literally on the bench, and all the other benches were being used, so I'm using the bench that had the barbell like attached to it.
Yeah.
Some guy, why I'm literally using dumbbells on this bench, comes up and starts loading the barbell above my head. Yes.
What?
Yes. Yeah, and I'm like,
oh
freaking
my God.
out. So like, what is happening? But at that point, I was just like pissed, because I'm like, no, like I'm at a point where that's not okay.
The disrespect.
Yeah, but I get why like people don't feel as comfortable, or there's like intimidation factor. But the more you make the effort to like make these acquaintances at the gym, make it more feel like at home, get familiar with all the ins and outs, right? Then you become like the person who then can look at other people and be like, oh, I can tell she's not as confident. Yeah. I'm gonna go and say something to her. Or, you know, like you become that person. So there's a nice evolution there too.
Oh, definitely. And also like people, like, especially I think like guys, like they start paying you respect. Yes. They do. Like sometimes it's like, I mean, you can tell from like other compliments, like I get these a lot, like especially here in Bali, because people are more like open-minded, like, they approach you more than like, for let's say for example in Switzerland. But also it's like, I feel like just like the way that they act around you, like you can tell, like you get their, like you have their respect. And that is really, really cool. And I feel like this is, for me, it's like, I mean, it's a big part.
Yeah, love that. Okay, so but let's talk about gaining the respect, because a lot of that is from training hard. Yeah. And I think for me, I knew like over the past couple of years, I'm like, that's the area I want to progress in, because there's a difference between, this is how I would kind of think of it, like first someone starts working out consistently, right? They're moving their body in some way, classes, whatever, HIIT, whatever, some way. Yes, that's like the intro, right? And then from there, you like lift weights consistently, right? And so there's weights in your hands and you're like, okay, I'm not gonna do the cardio class, I'm gonna do like the lifting class, or I'm gonna go to the gym and lift, right? Okay, got that down. Then from there you go into, oh, I'm gonna be on a progressive overload training program, or like an intentional program. Like I would consider CrossFit in that too, right? Where it's like, okay, intentional programming where I'm like, oh yeah, I'm gonna lift heavy and it's gonna be intentional. So I think there's lots of room in that, and I spend a lot of time in that area. Like I would like track my weights, but I knew there was opportunity to grow there. And then I think the next phase after that is like, you are training with the intent to progress, and you're lifting with the intent to progress every single session. It does not matter if you had a bad day, if you're feeling bad. I like to call it like I say to my body, like, hey, you're a machine, right? Like you're just a machine. And instead of deciding like that day, what am I gonna lift? Like I let my training logs decide for me what I need to hit. And the difference for me, especially over this like past year-ish, is doing that every single time for weeks and months on end. It's like training sessions like don't get missed, right? Like that, I feel like that's, did I miss anything? Is there anything else you would add? Any other categories or steps or details?
No, I think honestly people underestimate the power of a routine, and they underestimate the power of consistency, which is one of the big like things I'm trying to teach my clients and you as well. It's like, I'm sorry, like I would love to tell you it's the excitement or it's like the cool TikTok workouts that like you can change up every week and like so it stays like interesting. It will not get you anywhere. It will, or at least not far. I mean, it depends like if you what shape you want to create or to achieve. If that's just like, if it's not muscle mass, then okay, go ahead, like feel free. But just saying, like women, for us, it's like super important to build muscle mass, like no matter what age, but especially after 30, because we have a huge rate of muscle loss, like the older we get, and it's getting even worse the more we get into like closer to menopause and like during menopause. So just, yeah, that as a note. But yeah, for me, I mean, I've been doing this for years because I've been, I mean, I started competing in 2017, so it's been
competing in bodybuilding.
Competing in bodybuilding, yeah. I started, like even as a bikini athlete back then, like this is like, it's not even something that you talk about. It's like it's the basement. It's like the absolute fundamental, like everything that you want to create on top of that. It's like create consistency, and it's like, of course, like with nutrition as well, but like training. And like, yeah, no, it's not supposed to, it's like, it's sometimes like I heard from like clients like, yeah, progress is like it has become hard. Yeah, it's supposed to become hard because everything actually until the point where it gets hard is like just like more like pre-work, you know what I mean? And like then when it gets like really, really hard, it's like hard to progress. This is also where it really starts like paying off. And that's how it is. And like at some point maybe you hit a plateau and you cannot progress like every week. That's normal. Like, and this is like when it comes to like you really like pushing beyond like what you want or what like feels good or whatever, and your discipline has to kick in. Like it's not, maybe you have a bad day. Yeah, so what? Like you still trying to hit these numbers. And
honestly, it's become almost easier and more rewarding for me as you go through these evolutions. But two things I want to point out is you go through these like different levels, and it's not like no level is wrong, right? It's just for depending on what goal you have, how proficient you are. But I think for the ladies that we work with, we do want to emphasize that, hey, if you want to make more progress faster, which a lot of you guys do, and if you want to change your shape, you want to build muscle, like there is opportunity here to go to the next level. It's not just working out more and more and more.
No.
So kind of going back to the theme that we want to really emphasize is working smarter, not harder. This is a perfect example to be able to do that. And so do we want to share some examples? Because I think one thing, obviously tracking your weights and your progressions is huge. And that's something that I definitely did before, but I think doing it at this level is different in the sense that, I kind of mentioned this too, is like, it doesn't matter, I'm not deciding the day of the weights and the reps I'm going to use. Right, that's already decided for me, and my intent is to progress. Now, kind of like you said, it's not going to always happen, but I don't go in there and I'm like, oh.
But you're always aiming for it.
Yes,
and that's the difference.
That's the difference.
You're always aiming for it, and if it's not going to happen, like you're literally like in the middle of your Bulgarian split squat and you can't get up, and like, but you're fighting for it, you're fighting, but you can't get up, and it's like, this is failure. Yeah. So we're always aiming to go to failure, and I feel like a lot of people, like, it's really hard to do this by yourself. This is why it's great to have like someone who can like really help you to push through these last reps. Like, even if it's like even if the person's like literally just like trying to help and like, but then eventually don't need to because it's more in a mindset, because like you are able to lift so much more, like knowing like in case that like things go to shit, which never really do because we're using machines, and you know what I mean. So then like it makes such a big difference. Like even then someone could like help you or whatever. Right? So
even having someone else count for you is so beneficial, because unless it's Angelina, who will just, you know, this is where I'm like, you know what, English is not her first language, because she'll go 2, 3, 7, 4. And I'm like, what? I always have a backup counter going on in my mind, and then sometimes she starts. Smart. Then it's like Swiss German, and she's like, "Sis."
Oh yeah.
I'm like, I don't know what's going on.
Oh my god, I'll never forget that. Like, 1, 2, I think it's 6. I've realized. I was like, oh shit, like 7, 8. And she was like, yeah, what the fuck are you talking about? Like, sorry.
But when she does count, it is really helpful, because even that little mental energy that you don't have to do, but then also it's like she's not going to stop counting. So there's an expectation that she's not going to stop counting, so I've got to match that. Versus when it's just yourself, it's kind of can be like the other way around. That's a really
and it's like sometimes you're like, I can't do it no more, and like the other person is like, I don't care, and then you're like, you're doing it, and it's like, oh shit, and like this is huge, right? It's like it actually gives you like, I don't know, like more adrenaline or whatever to just like push even harder. And so for me, it's like also like what I love efficiency, right? I hate nothing more, like in general in my life, but like also during training, to like waste my time or whatever. So I don't do like jump volume or whatever. And for me, it also comes down to really like build like strength and like focusing on like strength and hypertrophy. Same from like my clients. But I also like, so what I've like started doing is like, I would go from like I don't know, like I think in the beginning I would do like 4 sets for my clients and stuff. Like, of course, like it's different, but honestly, like more and more I do like really like less volume, like less sets, but then like rather go like heavy and go all in, and like I emphasize that, and this is like super important, like to actually be more efficient. Then like you don't need to like spend that much time at the gym, but you get like way more out of it. And so this for me is definitely like working smarter, not harder.
Yeah, that's a great point. And two, because I know I was in the corporate world, and a lot of my ladies appreciate that like efficiency too. You used to be in the corporate world. You were marketing for lawyers?
Yeah, marketing manager. No, for like I was responsible for the Smiths market, but we did like piping systems. Okay. So I've been doing this for 9 years up until last year.
So you understand that like corporate efficiency of intentional strategy.
Yeah.
But I think that's a great point. And kind of just to clarify, because some people might be like, wait, what are junk reps? What hypertrophy or strength? So in terms of working smarter, not harder, right? Like a lot of times when you first get started with lifting, you do 3 or 4 sets because you need to just get familiar with the movement, right? And know.
And you can't go that heavy, like mentally and also physically, like without injuring yourself. Like it's something that gets built.
Yeah. So then as you get more proficient, right, and you can have the ability to build more muscle, then you can start reducing the amount of reps and sets you're doing and go heavier. So typically we're doing maybe 2 working sets, meaning like that's our heavy set, maybe 3 on some things depending. But that's a great example of working smarter, not harder, because again, it depends where you're at, but if you're at a point where you've been doing 3 to 4 sets for, you know, a while now, years now, and you're like, I feel like I'm plateauing, this would be a great example. And if you're doing like 15 reps, right? Like bringing down.
When I was training for like to be when I was training to be still like competing in bikini, I had one coach like that was wild, like no joke. Like he programmed me like 7 sets of like 15 to 20 reps, and I was like eventually like I lost joy in training.
Yeah.
So I was like, fuck, I'm not gonna do this anymore. So I changed coach eventually after talking to him, and he didn't want to like change his training approach because he was so convinced that this was like the best approach. I was like, no, I don't think so. And now like also like even try to like keep yourself up mentally to do like seven sets, like even like nowadays, like because it's really what you're talking, like usually I do like 1 or 2 like top sets and like 1 back off set, right?
Yes.
So like heavy, and then like the back off is usually like lighter and like higher reps, but that way we really get out like the maximum out of it. But like mentally it's so much easier to know I have to like push really hard for like 1 or maximum like 2 sets.
Yeah.
And then like back off is like mentally is like easier anyways, like not necessarily physically, but like mentally it's like, yeah, whatever, it's back off set.
Back off set, meaning you would drop the weight down and do a little bit more reps. Yeah.
But then like thinking back, like now, even if I would need to motivate myself to like do like 4 sets, like in the intensity that I'm training at, which is probably way higher than like most people do, I couldn't.
Yeah.
Like, it would kill me mentally first, and like physically I would probably be able to do it, but like mentally, and this is like where the mental aspect comes in. It's also like I feel like a lot of people like underestimate this part of training, which is like really it makes the game for you. Like how do you approach training? How do you approach actually your training, and that like makes a huge difference.
Yeah, it makes it so much more rewarding though. And this is where at first, if you're adjusting to this, like it took me some time to be like, Jenny, every single time you have to do this. And that was like the big adjustment. But then I think the big switch for me mentally was like, I want the result, right? So if I don't have the intent to progress in this session, I kind of just like go through the motions and just like check the boxes, right? I almost feel like I'm wasting my time.
Yeah.
And going back to the efficiency, I'm like, what's the point here? And I'm like, I do not want to waste my time. Like, I'm going to be in here, again, working smarter instead of harder. If I'm going to be in here, I want to get the return from it. And it does feel so much more rewarding, because sometimes, like, there's been so many times, like she's literally in the hack squat, right? And she looks at me, you know, she scrunches her eyes and she goes, I don't wanna. For real? Like a little baby. And I'm like, I know you don't, but we're doing it, right?
And I'm like, okay. It's always like, okay.
And then serious mode goes on and she busts out. And then many times, like how many times have we been in the gym and we're like, oh, rough night of sleep, or oh, I started my period, or oh, I'm just feeling off today.
Yeah.
But we go in and we're with the intent to progress, and we still progress. And then we're kind of like, oh, didn't know I had that in me, but I made some gains today, right?
Yeah.
Like it's so much more rewarding,
That's rewarding.
that way, too. So there was one other thing I wanted to share on here, but anything else you have?
No, I feel like it kind of helps, like to like coming back to a bit like how you approach training. For me, it's like also what can really help is like honestly, like I mean, when I would train with you, like we would talk and everything. So, but like for example, what I listen to, like the kind of music I'm listening to, like plays a huge role for me in terms of like my mood, and my mood has a huge influence on like how I train. And so I don't care, like I listen to music that like puts me in a good mood. I don't need like the aggressive kind of stuff that honestly would like probably throw me off. Sometimes maybe it's some UK rap or hip hop or whatever, but I feel like this is really important, and like also the ability to kind of switch, because this is part, I feel like what we want to create is also part of like like an identity, right? It's like and I feel like the identity of like me being a like the fit person that I want to be on my level is that I have the ability to like put on like a switch. The way that I like the moment that I enter the gym, it's like game on. And that doesn't mean like I'm like grumpy or like oh now I'm like pumping or whatever. But it's like it's just like the ability to be like, okay, now like make every rep count, because otherwise you're wasting your time, you're wasting your potential. And this is something I feel like a lot of people like probably should realize is like you're also wasting your potential, and do you really want to waste your potential? Like I don't, and I feel like our clients certainly don't, because they're like, no, like I want to get the most out of it. Like if I give my time, which is valuable, and like whatever, I want to get the maximum out of it. So like try to create that like switch mentality, and I feel like this helps heaps to be like, okay, black and white. It's like I'm entering the gym like for the next 1.5 or 2 hours. I'm gonna be in this like mode, and like after that, other things are important. Also, put your phone into flight mode, please. Like this is a big one.
Yeah, I like how you said it's like you can create this identity of who you are in the gym, right? And then like become that person when you walk in. You're actually gonna laugh about this, and I didn't realize that I did this, but sometimes if I'm at the gym by myself, I actually listen to business podcasts.
Oh.
And Aaron's like I know.
Can you focus?
How can you focus all of that? And I pause it when I go, but I think the correlation for me is I feel like such a boss and such like power, like CEO energy when I'm just like thinking like business and like in that mindset, and then that transfers over, like that like forward moving energy of like progress transfers over to like into my set. And I think that's because I've been thinking,
what are the topics are like?
Generally, anything on business, like any big project I'm working on, I'm usually like listening to a podcast around it to get ideas and like just organize my thoughts and things like that. So it just makes me feel like super like powerful, smart, like progressing, and I think that then I like pause it to go do my set, because obviously I can't listen at the same time. But anyway, that's another topic. The other thing that I do want to get into is the like getting savvy with the gym equipment, with the machines and using accessories. I have a lot of ladies now that are asking me like, wait, like I think I need grips now because my like, or I need straps or grips because like that's the limiting factor. And I'm like, yes, you are lifting heavy enough. You like get them. It's gonna be amazing. But I've also learned a lot from you where, you know, you're like, oh, use grips on the leg extension to hold on because it's not made for short girls like us. Or use a yoga mat behind your neck on the hack squat. So I'm just curious, how did you just figure it out as you were like using these machines and just playing around with positioning, or what's your take on all that?
Okay, some stuff I honestly learned from other people, myself, like follow, like, I don't know, like bodybuilders, like friends of mine. Because I feel like no matter how long you've been training for, there's always room to learn. And I love learning from other people, and like actually the one on the leg machine, leg extension machine, like I got this from a friend of mine. I was like, oh my gosh, this is so smart. And he was like, you gotta try this, it's a game changer. And so I've been trained like ever since. Like I never did leg extensions without, because honestly, like I get out so many more reps, and it's something that I teach all my clients. And for me, like here it comes down to efficiency again. It's like, how can I make something work for me? And what I've also come to learn over the years is like, not all equipment is made for every body type. It's literally impossible, because I'm a shorty. So how can something work for me if like it's not adjustable in all different angles for me than like for someone else? And like there's some machines, to be honest, like they're more prone to that. So for example, pendulum squats, like if it doesn't fit my physique, I'm not using it. Like we have like that hip thruster. It's the same. It's like also like I'm not wasting my time figuring out like how can I make it work with like 700,000 things.
Yes, and it take so much time to set up every single time, and
it's so annoying. So I rather like do like, okay, let's do them free. And like I know like it sucks for a lot of people because of the setup, but honestly it's like what I've come to notice is also because in the beginning I was like, oh, free hip thrusts, it's so hard, let's be honest, like so hard, like I feel like I can get out less of my glutes workout. But what I've come to realize, and now I'm doing them like twice a week in like different variations of hip thrusts, is like how positively it impacted like the way that I train my adductors also.
Yeah.
Right.
And what she means by free is with the barbell.
Oh, yeah.
Where you set up the barbell
Oh, yeah.
yourself. Yeah.
Yeah, right. And so there's always pros and cons to everything.
Yeah.
But if equipment doesn't fit your physique, you can try to make it fit, like we do with the hack squat and the mat roll behind the neck. Like it creates, like you can create so much more ROM, like range of motion. But if it doesn't work for you and it feels uncomfortable and you cannot give it all because you kind of something just doesn't sit right, don't do it.
Yeah.
Just don't do it. Find an alternative. This is the thing that I love the most about bodybuilding is kickbacks. You feel you don't like them standing. Okay, try it on a bench. Try it whatever. It's the same for everything. So as the squats, right? In the Smith machine, we had to do instead of the hack.
Yes. Band. Yep. Yeah, I think this is a good point, and I think a lot of people relate to this because I know recently where I was just trying to force things. We have a leg curl, a seated leg curl at the gym, and I would try to do it, but it's too long for my anatomy, and so I would be squeezing. But when you do an exercise and you're squeezing, but you're I know this isn't optimized for the muscle I'm trying to work. So then you kind of get frustrated because you're again, I feel like I'm wasting my time. I'm not connecting with the muscle. I'm not connecting with this movement. And I have obviously Aaron, my fiance, who's a gym person, so I could talk to him about it, but he doesn't understand because he's way larger than me, so he doesn't have these issues. And so he was kind of just encouraging, oh yeah, maybe you just won't get full range of motion, that's fine. So it was nice to kind of be validated by someone who's my same height, and probably a lot of people who are listening to this, and to be no, just don't do it. It does not work. It's there's other things we can do, and it's oh yeah, okay, yeah, actually that's best. So I think it's good how you kind of said a combination of maybe first try to make it work by playing around with things, but once it gets to a certain point where it's this just isn't gonna work or be worth the time, then change it out. Again, working smarter instead of harder.
But what I want to encourage is I also had the opposite case, and this comes down to barbell things, for example. So when I've noticed people sometimes it's they start out with doing Romanian deadlifts, and this is obviously it's a pretty complex exercise. A lot of people don't get it in the first place, and what I mean by that is they it's the way that they do it, first execution, how to do it properly, because I feel it's around 10k times, so we need to do things to actually automate it, the right movement, right? It's a lot, and also it's they don't feel it in their glutes.
Yeah.
And so this is something that can take time, and don't get frustrated just because you don't figure it out right away, because I remember I was already training for a while when I was really getting into my muscle connection thing, and that's when I've come to realize that for lat pull downs, the wide grip lat pull downs, I wouldn't feel my lat. Actually, I was pulling from my arms. It took me 3 months, not joking, 3 freaking months to figure out how I need to do it in order to really feel. And it was not an option to give up. I was I'm gonna figure this out, and it took me time, but don't give up just because something is hard. Because even now, I've been training for 10 years, and honestly, when I try to do a new exercise, I'm shit, how do I, okay, and then sometimes it takes me time, it takes me a few trainings to really get into the exercise, and don't just give up because it doesn't seem right in the beginning.
This brings up a great point too about sticking with your training program for a long time. 6 weeks just isn't enough. It took me on my newest training program, it took me 3 or 4 weeks to just feel okay, I feel I'm really getting my form down, so that way I can intentionally progress here. Again, working smarter instead of harder. So if I was to change my program again, I'd be missing out on so much progress. So stick with your training program.
Yeah.
Or what do you recommend? I mean, I know typically programs are going to be anywhere from 10 to 16 weeks, but honestly, I feel people could go even for 5 or 6 months. But what do you typically recommend?
So for me, it's So when it comes to my very own program, oh my god, like I've been doing the same shit for like 6 months or more. Like I tend to change it when I realize like I really cannot progress anymore.
Yeah.
This is like over weeks and weeks and weeks when I'm like, and I mean sometimes it depends. Like, am I going through a cut? Of course I cannot progress anymore at some point because, especially if you're in a big deficit. But apart from that, like that would be the time. And then usually what I would do is not like doing something wildly different. I would just like choose a different variation, right?
Yeah.
Or a different rep range or whatever it is. For my clients, it's a bit different. So what I do is like minimum is usually 12 weeks.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's 3 months. And then like followed if they need it. So I'm not a big fan of like doing always deloads because like people recover differently and they have like vacations going up. Well, but like sometimes I would do like a deload week then and like leading into a new training program. But like honestly, like some clients they just love their program and they go on for like month and month and month. For me, it's like if your execution is like good and eventually like you can still progress, go ahead. Like who am I to change? I don't like to change something that is obviously working, right? And I mean, for me, it's like, so often I get asked like, oh, how did you build your glutes? By being consistent with the same things over and over again. But for me, like, I think my biggest big game changer in that, like really when it comes to my physique was honestly like training heavier.
Yeah.
Like consistency is key, like, but also like really dare to go heavy, and that was for me the biggest game changer.
Yeah, consistently training heavy.
Yeah, consistently training heavy. Yeah, not be like, oh, today I feel like training heavy. Let's go. And like sometimes there are days where I'm like literally, I'm like when I know like I have to do heavy RDLs now, it's literally I'm like shit. It's like I don't know how to do it, right? And I'm like, whatever, get the grips on.
It's like an athlete, right? It's a difference between like, oh, I'm someone who has a job and works out versus like, no, I'm an athlete. I'm progressing and I have future goals, and this is like step by step how I'm going to get there.
Yeah,
totally.
It's like if you have like a specific goal, you have to have a strategy that works toward to, and consistency is absolutely crucial for that.
Yep. So the other main part of building muscle, right, that complements training is going to be nutrition.
It's such a hard topic.
Something that I think is really cool is like when we first started hanging out, we would be like, oh, like what are your macros? How many calories are you eating? And we weren't like intentionally doing it, but we were kind of like bragging of like, I can't, you were like, oh, I'm at 2,300. I was like, oh, I'm about to be at 2,000, right? Like it's just so funny because we were like, how cool is it? How much food we're eating?
It's amazing. I also remember like the other day when I went to you, like, how are you? And you were like, good, my calories got increased. And I was like, bitch, it's amazing. Love it. How much? And you were like, oh, this. And I was like, oh, that's really nice. Like you can, it's so cool. And it's so cool. And this is like the mindset shift that is like, it's priceless.
Yeah.
It's just priceless.
So eating enough, obviously, I know I talk about it so much with all of my clients, and again, I think when you're on the other side of it, where you like see the benefit, when you've had the experience of the benefit, it's like the goal. It's like how much can we eat? Yeah. Obviously, it's not vague. It's not random. We're not dirty bulking and just having whatever. Like it's all intentional. It's almost like how much is my body requiring right now? As far as nutrients, and how can I get that up as high as I can? Because not only does that mean that like, okay, I'm building muscle, I'm increasing my metabolism, I'm giving my body enough nutrients to train hard, but to recover from that training, and then to meet the end goal of building muscle, and then priming myself to be able to easily decrease body fat. Like, but it's so funny because like you said, like that mindset shift, and then looking back of like how we talk about it is very different than a lot of ladies I speak to, or back in the day where I thought like 1,500 calories is what everyone should be eating. You know, you've got to eat less. You don't eat carbs. It's just a totally different mindset. Yeah, it's like when like future clients approach you and be like, I want to cut, and then like you find out like they're literally at 1,500 calories. I'm like, girl, like cut from what?
Where can I cut? Like there's not like literally that's what you need for like your body to function healthily. So That's where we first need to build up calories, but it's also something that like, honestly, I got like most of my clients to the point they're already like, we would like do a cut first. So this is like the clientele I'm working with, like we would do like a cut first, and then like we build up their, like we reverse diet, then build up their metabolism. And like there's some like they're a bit like afraid, but eventually they always end up like looking forward to this phase so much, because I feel like maybe because they see it, because it's something that I speak up like about like very openly on social media. It's like the bragging part, but in terms of like not really because I care about like my calories, it's more about like showing women like, hey, if you lift heavy and you eat clean, and like by clean I mean like in a way that like really supports your body, and for me clean is like also always like as processed as possible, like as basic as possible, then you can actually like also like eat more and like fuel your body in a good way. And just like it's also like the mindset shifts I feel like need to happen in a lot of like ways. It's also like, I think it was yesterday I posted an Instagram story, it's like, oh, it was like about me like being really heavy. So I did like earlier this year, like 4 months ago or so, I did a mini cut, and I ended up being like around like 59 kilograms or so. And now I'm like 62.5, and obviously like I'm not shredded anymore or nothing, which is also not my goal, but it's more like, it was like either I can think like, oh my gosh, I've never been this heavy, like, ooh, I hate this, or I can think like, wow, on this weight, I've never looked that good, which for me is certainly the case. It's like, fuck, like 62 for my, like my height, like for my size, like, it's like, okay, that's heavy. But then like looking at my physique, I'm still like, damn, like you've never looked that good on this weight. And so I feel like it's very often, again, like how we approach things with our mindset, how we see it. And it should be the goal, should be this, should be like that mindset, and not like all the rest.
Yeah, that's a really good point. And I also think that when I think about, oh, the more food I eat now means the more food I'm going to be eating in the deficit phase.
Yeah.
So it's like, oh,
that's the goal.
Yes. Yeah. And of course it's, I have a lot of people too that think like, oh, this is a picture of me of like back in the day of like how I looked or the weight I looked before. And I'm like, well, isn't the goal, right? If you want to build muscle, like muscle is going to be weight. So that number's kind of irrelevant, right? Totally. Like you can look so much better when you weigh more. It's all into, I think people don't realize it's like body fat percentage is a percentage. So if you build more muscle, even if you have the same body fat, right? And like that percentage is going to go down and you're going to look so much better. So like 2 months ago, I was debating like, okay, it wasn't even a debate once I thought about it. Like, okay, do I want to go into a cut, like a calorie deficit, or do I want to go into a build? Well, if I went into a cut or calorie deficit, I'm like, I would just look skinny. And I'm like, I don't want to be skinny, right? I don't want to, and like, I don't know if you guys use the term skinny fat.
Oh, I do.
But I'm like, oh yeah, I don't want that, and I don't want like a tiny butt and just look flat and skinny. Like if I do a calorie deficit, which is a lot of effort and work, like I wanted to show the muscle that I have and the curves and all of that. So I'm like, of course I'm going to do a build first and build muscle first and build up my calorie intake. And it's just like a win-win-win across the board before going into that like deficit, because I'm trying to like not just look skinny.
And I feel like actually it's like funny enough, it's like, if people would like look at like, well, it certainly happens to me, it's like that, like there are people like women like, oh my god, but I don't want that much muscle mass. I'm like, girl, like don't you worry, like I've been working for this so long, so hard, like you'll never, probably if you don't want that, it's
doesn't just
very,
happen.
it never happens. Like if you don't really want that, like it's not gonna happen. Like I give you 10 years. So apart from that, it's like still like we're talking about like the toned look, right? Which like females very often want. It's like, but it's actually, if you like break down what it is like less body fat and like showing like a toned physique means that you can like probably like see like a little bit of like visible like muscle,
yeah.
and because it's eventually that this is the base, it's like the foundation, and we're not talking about like striations or whatever in a muscle and like having like huge delts. It's just like this very like lean muscle or like lean muscle, yeah. Look. And so I think it's actually should be the aim of like everyone to do that, to put in some time and effort, like build up metabolism and build up muscle mass, and then you can always shred, and like it's gonna look 10 times better than if you're just like cutting but realizing there is not much muscle mass left. And this is like something that happens to also, like in my experience, like I've had like clients, they wanted to compete, and then like we would cut, and then eventually it was like, oh, like a lot more of what I thought was muscle mass was actually fat, because it wasn't, there was not much left in the end, right?
Yeah.
And so it's really, this is a process that like takes time and effort and smart planning to build muscle mass, because it's easier to lose weight, not fat. Like fat loss is something different.
Yeah.
It requires a strategy as well. But like building muscle mass requires a strategy, and it doesn't come easy. So, but it's so worth it for like health requirements and like, I mean, even the aesthetic, like especially the aesthetics.
In your
like,
experience.
yeah.
Like you're being able to be abundant with food and being like, oh, I can go out to eat. I can have this because I have so much food that I like need to eat.
Yeah.
It like totally changes the entire experience.
Yeah.
But I love how you use the word strategy, because that's one of like the core things that I emphasize. And with our like corporate backgrounds, it may be also why we use that word a lot.
Yeah.
But I think that's kind of the main takeaway is like, if you, to be able to work smarter instead of harder to build your shape, like, you have to have a strategy when it comes to your nutrition, and eating enough needs to be a part of that strategy. So I'm curious, what do you find, like for your ladies who are lifting weights, what do you find, like how many calories on average do you typically like see that they need when they are eating enough, like at their maintenance, let's say? Like I typically see someone who is lifting weights that I call moderate weights, it's 1,800 calories or more.
Yep. And
And then someone who's lifting heavy and intentional, it's 2,000 calories or more.
Yeah.
What do you see?
Yeah, definitely. No, from my experience as well, it's also like what I try to like build up their metabolism too, of course.
Yeah.
Very often I also though see that like females still underestimate themselves, like what lifting heavy really is, and I feel like like if someone can really like do this, like really go like to like go to that point and like weights and really make that progress, like not just like every now and then, but like constantly, then they can definitely like build up their like their calories like beyond 2K. And this is really amazing, like, and I feel like this is important to say, like, while maintaining a good shape.
Yes.
So this is crucial. It's not just like you're not blowing up and be like, whatever I'm eating, I mean, even me right now, it's like I'm eating like 2,300 around. This is what I'm aiming for.
Yeah.
I feel like it varies a bit. Like some females go like better, or they sit better with like higher percentages of fat. I, for example, I don't really. For me, it works the best. Like I'm a carbs girl. Like I can eat like carbohydrates, clean ones, like really good, like natural sources, and like my performance, my shape, and everything is like going through the roof.
Yeah.
And then it's just like it's a bit like these adjustments, but in general, like it's so worth it lifting heavy, because it's so amazing if you get to eat all that food. Honestly,
That's exactly what I find too, is those who are lifting heavy or moderate or heavy and have a higher percentage of muscle mass, then carbs generally works.
Yeah.
A higher ratio of carbs, that's going to be a lot of my ladies that I work with because of that. But then carbs are so much more satiating.
Yeah.
So, and it's like, it just gets really fun.
Yeah,
then.
volume. Like it's really cool. And also it's like, I mean, this is like a discussion that I have like a lot interestingly these days. It's about like also the comparison between like men like men and women. And of course, like men, they tend to have like more muscle mass, meaning they tend to eat more. Also, like their metabolism is different, but as females, we need more just because like we do have like a cycle and men don't. And just to keep like our hormonal health in place, we need, for example, more carbs. So it's and this like has a huge effect on like so many things. For example, just the other day I talked to my boyfriend. He was like, yeah, but I don't need as many. Like I can literally live off like fat and like protein. And I was like, yeah, you're a man. And he was like, oh yeah, again, because we have this topic very often. It's like, unlike so often my argument is like, yeah, you're a man because men, like females are no small men. We're like completely different. So we actually need carbs, and we need to like lose that fear of like eating a lot of carbohydrates, because it's just the best fuel, and like our body loves carbs.
Even for sleep, to improve sleep, like carbs also help bring down cortisol, which
come on.
Yeah, a lot of my ladies are very like high achieving, high strung, high stress. So increasing those carbs helps to bring that stress down, which then has benefits on hormones, so much. So speaking of carbs though, and going out to dinner, something that I think is like a key component to understand, like when you're building muscle and decreasing body fat, is understanding the day-to-day fluctuations and what would be driving those. Like there's so many times you come to the gym, and again, this is just like natural conversation for us, but it's something that I think, like, I don't know, 10 years ago, I wouldn't have understood, right? And I know so many people, my ladies, right, have these like confusing things that I don't understand it. But we're like, oh, you know, I ate out, I'm feeling a little fluffy. Oh, but I ate out, you know, last night, that would make sense. And like you clearly know, or we clearly know, like, oh, it's not because of my food increase or the quantity that I'm eating. It's because of the inflammation from the oils at the restaurant last night, right? Like we know how to like separate and just be really in tune with our bodies. But I think that's a skill that you like develop when you gain knowledge. But what are the many things that you see? I mean, for me, definitely eating out.
Yeah, for sure. Like the eating out or the vacation, or like I even try to tell my clients like they actually cause more damage by worrying that much about it like beforehand. Like it's I've come to so this is something that I see a lot, is like how much they worry before like the event actually happens. And so this is like a big topic, is like how to handle eating out, how to like make smart choices so it actually like fits your goal, but then also leave some room for like just life. And for me, it's always like, how do you approach a meal? Is like, is it gonna be, is like a regular, like let's say just like a business meal or whatever, something that you don't want to waste calories on, in terms of like make a smart choice, like go for like lean protein, fill up with like veggies because that's fiber, like really ask for like the sauce, like it's like to give them separate on the side, like all these little cues, and that gives them more like confidence to go into the situation, like to learn from it. But on the other hand, it's like if they go on vacation or whatever, they come home, like it's always like so much of it is water, like, and like if we're talking like also like because we have like fluctuations due to our cycles, which is big. Like some women, they pull water like crazy during ovulation, for others it's during menstruation, others like have like crazy PMS, like we work on that. But the eating out is like, and then like they come home the next day, they're like messaging me, I gained weight. It's like, you're just heavier. It's not like you didn't gain fat. That's just like fat and weight is like, no, it's like so different. Like you're just like, you're pulling water, like maybe it's the salt, maybe it's the oils, maybe it's like you have literally like also you're heavier because you ate late and you have more food in your stomach than usual. Like,
or you haven't gone to the bathroom yet.
Or you haven't gone to the bathroom yet. Or all these, it's
or
like
you didn't sleep enough.
So many,
or you're weighing yourself at a different time than you did before. All these different things. Actually, so in the States next week is Thanksgiving.
Oh, of course.
Which essentially is a food holiday. So it's just like everyone gets together, you have a big meal full of dairy and gravy and creams and butters. Turkey and just all the things, and desserts and drinks and alcohol. That's another one, right? You'll see the scale increase. So I told these, like I was coaching them on our call this week, and I was like, ladies, I expect your check-in to be up a pound or two, which is, you know, half a kilo to a kilo, right? I expect that in your weekly check-in. So you need to expect that if you're going to participate in any of these foods, which right now they're reverse dieting back up, so they don't need to be super strict, right? And just explaining to them like, okay, this is what I expect. You should expect the scale to be up. You should expect to have that water retention, and then know over, you know, the next 3 to 5 days, once you dial back in, you're going to see that disappear, and you'll be right back to where you were. But like, having that understanding is so different than like I remember back in the day being like, I don't know what's working, what's not working, what is the scale saying, and just being so confused, but being like in tune with your body and knowing why gives you like, it's just so much more empowering.
It is, but I feel like it's still like, this is also a process, because I feel like it's something that you can tell them and they're like, okay, and they understand rationally, but it's interesting how emotionally attached we are to the weight on the scale, like what it actually does to them, and like to me certainly too in the past, like because the scale was like everything, because we're so like, I don't know, like we're just wired that way, right? Through like society, the way that we grew up, like what we read in magazines, like especially in the, like if you grew up in the 90s, I feel like it was like the thing, like you have to be like thin as possible. Like I did crazy stuff in order to be thin when I was younger. So I feel like this is like a huge one, like the emotional detachment is a big part of my coach, is like, and yours as well in that case. Of course, it's like, how do I emotionally detach from the number on the scale? Because it's just like, if we put emotions to it, we put a lot more meaning to it than there actually is, because rationally it's absolutely like explainable, and the less you, I feel like the less you stress about it, the better. And so what I tend to share with my clients is like, because it helps them understand and like kind of relate also, it's like, to be honest, like my body, despite being an athlete, like it can take, like when I go on vacation, like I eat completely different. It takes me sometimes up to 2 weeks, and this is a long time, 2 weeks to adjust. I don't know why, like sometimes it's just 1 week, it has been 2 weeks until like my weight kind of came down again, like I've noticed like I've lost all the water and whatever, and that's it. Like I don't need to I don't know, like
add a ton of cardio and then cut
calories.
Right.
I don't need to do that, or even like just like it's not negative and it's not positive. It is, period. It's like, don't put any more meaning to it than it is. Same with the weight. Weigh yourself every morning. Note it down, period. Lose the thought. Like, don't think about it. That's why you have a coach, or why you learn about it. Is like you can give that like responsibility to someone else in terms of like, you decide whatever happens with that number. What does it mean? Yeah, because you cannot interpret.
Yeah, you read my mind, because I was going to say, well, how I kind of make that emotional separation is think like, okay, your emotions are valid, but they're going to change once you look at it as science and data, right? If you look at it as like a lab and you're collecting data and you're looking at the facts, and then you have the knowledge and the science and the understanding of what that means. So it's why I spend a lot of time like on education, at least, you know, in my program, because I find that like, ladies want to be empowered with this, and once you know it, it completely changes that like emotional side of it, which it sounds like that's what you do as well. But then the other thing that I see is that, like you said earlier, like you can logically learn this, but then experiencing it for yourself and then seeing, like the first time you know this, and then you're like, okay, the scale's gonna go up. But then when you see it go back down, your first time you're like, oh, okay, I see that now. And then the second time you're like, no, it's happened again. And then the third time, I have people, it's so great to see like the progress in the check-ins. I have people tell me like, oh, I'm going on vacation, the scale will be up, or the scale's up, I just went on vacation, it'll go back down. And I'm like, oh, they're so confident. And then they're like, their emotions, like there's no drama there. They feel calm, and it's so good. So this is where, kind of going to the next topic, which experiencing this with the coach is so beneficial, because you apply all of that. You get the education, you get the experience, you get the data tracking. So for ladies who are listening on my end, where can they learn more about your follow along on your journey, and or work with you, give us all the links, all the things. Where can they go?
So for me, it's like mainly my Instagram, to be honest.
Yep.
I I have kind of, so I do coach in English. I do coach obviously in Swiss German and German. My main profile, I run it in Swiss German because that's where the majority of my clients is located or based. But I do have like another one. So just like shoot me a message on like angelina.js or angelina.js.daily.
I'll put that in the show notes on my podcast too.
Yeah, because it's like sometimes people are like confused, like like on one profile she like I have like English content.
Yeah.
The other one is like German content.
You can follow both too, like I do, and have no idea what's going on when it's all in German. But I still like it all.
Yeah, so it's like great content. I think.
I think so.
Sounds about right. But yeah, I think Instagram is certainly the best place to like. Also, like just shoot me a message. I love to talk in my DMs in terms of like, like helping people and giving tips and whatever. So yeah, that's the place where they can find me. How about you?
For me, mine is all in English, just to let you guys know. And I have an Instagram at Jenny the Nutritionist. I also have a podcast, which this will be on, called Create Your Shape with Jenny the Nutritionist. And then my coaching program is a 4-month nutrition coaching program called Create Your Shape. And that, I'll give you the links to that as well, but that you can go to jennythenutritionist.com/create-your-shape to learn more all about that.
Awesome. Yeah, we're gonna publish it on both podcasts, I think.
Yeah.
Therefore, we can like spread the good and important messages
throughout
all
over the world.
Yes.
All over the world. But is there anything that we missed, or any other topics? I think we covered. I know all the things
we covered
talked about it, but
so freaking much.
just want to make sure.
Yeah, and I mean we
knows?
can always do like the next episode next year.
One. Yes.
Yeah, in person again.
Okay, great.
Yeah.
Well, if you are coming from Angela's side of the world, nice to meet you. Hope you enjoyed. And then if you're on my side, hope you enjoyed getting to
you loved it. Yeah,
Angelina. All right, thank you so much.
Thank you. It was so good. I loved it. Of course, of course. It was actually like we knew like how it's like it's gotta be just like a really good like girlfriend talk session. But like I feel like we gave like a lot of important and valuable insights, and so yeah, I guess it's gonna be like a benefit to everyone.
Love it. All right, then. Goodbye, everyone.
See ya.